Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Hello! Welcome to BSP Believer Skeptic Podcast.
The commercial where two idiots debate weird phenomena.
I'm Chris, I'm the believer.
I'm Cody, I'm the skeptic.
We are an LGBTQ paranormal comedy podcast.
And proud members of the Podmoth Network.
So, did you know there's a creature in Japan called a kappa that tries to suck a bejeweled life force out of your anus?
I did not, and I'm not even going to try debunking that. Instead, I volunteer as tribute.
Okay, so if you like your podcast a little spooky, a little mysterious, a lot gay, do we have the show for you?
Just listen and subscribe to BSP Believer Skeptic Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And for more content, search BSPodPHX on social media or visit bspodphx.com. Bye!
Hey, Twisted Listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder
and lists.
We're brought to you by the Podmoth Podcasting Network. They're amazing. Check out the other podcasts. Woo!
Yeah, do it.
Do it. And this is part 2 of motherfuckers caught on camera.
Caught on camera. Yeah, scary video footage that catches killers or is a huge piece of the case.
Yes.
And foils them.
Yeah, makes you think twice about hating on cameras. Like, I like my privacy, but I also like the idea that it deters people from murdering me.
I mean, until though we're in like a fascist state where like they turn on like a little Big Brother level, and then they're like watching everything we do. Like, you know, we could get to that point.
I think we.
No, I know,
already.
but like we could extra be that. Like we could.
Yeah, it's less blatant than it could be, I suppose.
Yeah,
as long as I can still lie to myself.
I remember there was backlash when I went to school at UCSB, and there was a lot of crime and sexual assault, and they started putting giant like floodlights and cameras everywhere, which like fine with the light, but like everyone was like a little unwary of the cameras, you know. But
I mean, I get it, but at the same time, like I get it, like, but it does give you pause when you hear about shit like this, and like some of these cases, how long they take to solve, and then that's what solves them. I'm kind of like,
solve cases faster, but I don't know to extent it actually deters people or not.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be interested to see studies, and I'd be interested to see how they correlate those things. But
yeah.
Anyway, so this is part 2. And also, guys, this is my birthday month. I'm about to be 40.
Woo!
Yeah. I hate the word 40. It sounds like farty, and I don't like it. I would rather be like 41.
Say, do Spanish. Say you're 40. That's really fun.
40. Yeah, okay. I can get with that. That sounds actually really pretty, especially compared to 40. I'm 40. Like, it's so ugly. Yeah. It's just ugly. Sorry to our 40-year-old listeners. Once you're 41, you're out of my judging zone. So, and I will be firmly in it at the end of this.
That's month, okay. So. You're judging yourself. So
I am. I'm just judging the word. It's just an ugly word. Whoever named 40, like, you suck. 40. Why'd you do that? You're stupid. Yeah. Anyway, here we go.
Viertig in Dutch.
Also, hold on. Just another point on that. 30, it's not 3D. 50 is not 5T. Why the fuck is 40? 40. Like, yeah. It could have been like forte and been like cool sounding. Like a white lady saying
40. I also like it in Dutch. It's viertig.
I love that. That's beautiful. But in American, in English, I should say, I prefer to say American because it matches the dumbness of the word to call it American.
Yeah.
In good old fashioned American, it's just 40.
Speak.
Anyway, all right, here we go. You're going first. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a fucking really disturbing, horrific case. I might talk too long. That's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone says like, don't stop saying that. So sorry. Yes. This is the case of Sasha Samsudean. She was 27 years old. This is in 2015, and we're in Orlando.
Okay.
Sasha is from Orlando. She grew up there, and then she graduated from the University of Florida She was the social media manager for a local real estate agency that owned a bunch of big fancy apartment complexes.
Huh.
So there's tons of videos of her advertising apartments, touring apartments, kind of like those virtual, promo videos.
Yeah, she's out there.
Oh, yeah. And she's super good at it. You can tell she's selling the fuck out of some apartments or renting the fuck out of some apartments, right?
Right.
She's super bubbly and smiley and just like a natural kind of on the camera and like people person.
Mm-hmm.
Her Instagram shows her just like living her best 20s life, going, just you can still see her Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
She's going out with her friends, going out to eat, having mimosas at brunch, just good stuff.
Just having a good life, having a good time and a good life.
Yeah, partying a bit as she should.
Yeah.
Also, she has a Yorkie Terrier that she loved very much. It's very cute.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid little like mini Yorkies.
Mm-hmm.
And
love that.
Yeah. She had very recently moved in at this time into an upscale downtown Orlando apartment building called, I think, Uptown something. I put it on the murder map.
Okay. So if you're a
Spoiler
patron,
alert.
if you're a patron, we love you. You're literally the only thing that gives us any money every month. So we love you dearly. And please check it out. I mean, we do get ads, but like, dude, just so you guys know, like what they pay indie podcasters for ads is so terrible. Anyway, okay, go on.
Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so this particular night, I didn't get the exact night. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sasha was out at an Orlando City Lions game, which is a soccer team she followed closely.
Okay.
And after they won, as you do, you party and celebrate. And she was with a big group of her friends. They went out to party at various locations, including at a nightclub quite late for a few hours. They're doing the nightclub thing, dancing, whatnot.
Yep, just having a good time.
Yeah, my nightmare, but I used to enjoy that. Roughly around her age, but younger. I did do that.
My friends dragged me out and I begrudgingly went and acted like a baby the whole time. So
okay.
I was like, I refuse to have fun.
I mean, to be fair, you kind of have to be drinking to enjoy that situation. Like,
and I've never been. Yeah, exactly.
You cannot be sober there.
Let me ask you: if you have to drink to enjoy something, is it really fun?
Yeah,
that's my question to you guys.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
Just saying. Anyway,
no, yeah, but I did. Never mind. I'm sidetracking now. But there was a night when the same nightclub I used to go to had like a Tuesday night old person kind of night where we would like dance. And it was quite empty, and there was free food and like a happy hour.
Okay, I'd be down for that. Free food.
That was fun.
An empty place. Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, that was fun.
But anyway. That's why I go to dive bars. Anyway,
exactly.
The bartenders they start feeding you. It's great. Okay, go
old
on.
People,
Sorry.
old people night. Okay, and they played 90s music just because they knew that it was all old people there too. Okay,
love
so Sasha leaves around 12:30 a.m. from the club. She kind of says bye to her friends abruptly, but they don't find it to be anything odd because perhaps she's meeting up with someone else. They're just like, okay, bye, all right. But then her friend is disturbed when she doesn't show up to breakfast the next morning, which she had, made plans with him for.
Okay.
So he finds that a little odd. He keeps texting her saying, what the hell? He's like, is she hungover? Is she asleep? Like, what's going on?
Right.
He asks all the other friends if she's okay, if they've seen her. And eventually he gets so worried that along with two other friends of hers, he decides to go by her apartment and see if they can, piece anything together. Once they're there, they see that Sasha's car is still in the garage. She didn't go out anywhere like that day.
Okay.
And there's a gift inside for the baby shower she was going to attend that day. It's still inside. So she didn't go to the shower.
To the baby shower. But does that mean, like, did she drive her car to the club and then drive home?
No, I don't think she did not have her car.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
Just means she didn't go out that day at all.
Right.
So no one answers the door when they go knocking. And after calling jails and hospitals and whoever they can think of, they call 911 and report her missing.
Okay. It's interesting they called jails. It makes me think that maybe she liked to drink a lot. I don't know.
I mean, it's what you do when someone's missing, though, And
no, absolutely, you got to cover all your bases.
You can get picked up for being publicly drunk, though. Like, you can get picked up for dumb shit. Like,
yeah, even just walking home. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
So
for sure.
You never know. Cops are out there trying to find poor drunk people. So
yeah, trying to stay busy, entertaining themselves and being pieces of shit. Okay, go on. Sorry.
So when authorities get there, they enter the apartment, and this is gruesome. They find Sasha's body in her bed with her blanket over her. She has visible strangulation marks on her neck.
Oh.
Her shirt and bra were ripped open. She was nude from the waist down. So you can piece things together that some form of sexual assault had taken place.
Yes.
Her cleaning supply cupboard was open, and there was a smell of bleach and other cleaning supplies in the air wafting.
Okay.
In the bathroom, investigators find 2 fingerprints on the inside of the toilet seat, which is up, which is a fucking red flag because girls do not do that.
No. Oh my God, bro, you're gonna bleach the place and then leave the toilet up
with your fucking smash your fingerprints onto it as well. So very fucking stupid. Again, girls do not do that. So that's like a big like boop boop boop. Man was here. A man was here. You know.
Yeah.
DNA is also found on her breast. So they have DNA, which is good.
Good.
And oddly, there's no forced entry to the apartment.
Uh-oh.
I'm just going to pause there for a moment and let you marinate in that fact.
Okay.
Investigators then turn to the building's very comprehensive surveillance camera system. This is a heavily kind of guarded, surveilled place.
Yeah, private property. They can do that.
Yep. The security guard who was working that night at the building and who shows them all the footage claims that around 3 a.m., he saw Sasha trying to get into the building, but she couldn't because she couldn't remember the code. And he wouldn't let her in because she didn't have her ID on her. His story's about to get a little worse as I go here.
Okay.
So this guard, whose name is Stephen Duxbury, says that she kind of waited and eventually, I think he saw her slip in behind another resident entering. And it's unclear to me if he was just doing his rounds or if he saw this and was like mad about it or something, but he goes looking for her and says that she was, this is super weird to detail to say. He says that basically she was easily found because her flip-flops were so loud. You could hear the sound of her shoes.
Okay. Also, she went out to the club in flip-flops, which is interesting.
Yes.
Or maybe she took them off. I don't know. I'm sorry. That just struck me.
Yeah.
It's Florida. I don't know what they do down there.
I'm not sure if it's sandals or flip-flops, but something's flopping, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if it's smacking, it's probably a flip-flop. It could be like a fancy one.
Yeah.
Like a slide kind of deal. Okay.
Something smacking. Right. Yeah. So he says he found her fumbling with her apartment code, which she also couldn't remember. Again, she's drunk and she also just moved in.
Right.
And she says that suddenly she thought she remembered the code, but she tries it, doesn't work. There's kind of a prolonged thing. And he said, this is his story, that he told her, quote, if you're not in your apartment when I do my next sweep, we'll have to figure out a way to deal with this situation. He says he left her after this and then didn't see her again. But then later, on a later sweep, saw her from a distance talking with a man in a hallway. But he's not 100% sure if it was her because he was wearing something different. When they're like, well, what was she wearing? He's like, I couldn't tell you. What? I don't know.
I noticed enough to know it was different than what she was wearing before, but I can't tell you what it is.
Yes.
That sounds legit.
Yes. So police pull footage from near the club where she left and kind of pieced together her night from that point on. So whether her friends knew it or not, or they were drunk, Sasha was in a bad shape when she left, and she's stumbling, like actively, like almost falling over. So you just feel for her. It's like, oh, someone get this girl home, right?
Yeah.
So a short while later, they pick her up on another camera. Clearly, Orlando is very heavily filmed as well.
Right.
They find her walking and 2 girls are kind of walking with her. Cops quickly put out this screenshot, and the 2 girls come forward and say, that's us. And they explain that they saw Sasha, and this is like, touches my fucking heart here. This is how everyone should behave. They were concerned about her safety, and when they saw her stumbling, right? And especially concerned when they saw a group of men in a car pull up and start talking to her.
Oh, God.
So these badass girls kind of shuffled her away and acted like they were her friend, right?
Like, we're with her, leave her alone. Good. Yes. Good for them.
Yeah. They then got her to get into an Uber with them, and trying to figure out where she lived. And at a certain point in the trip, Sasha realized that they were passing by her apartment. So she says, oh, this is where I live. This is me, and just kind of jumps out.
Wow.
And the girls are like, okay, sweet. We did it. We got her home.
Those poor girls trying so hard and doing the right thing. And it's still.
They did. And how scary, I'm sorry, I'll go back to this later, but how fucking scary is it that a girl cannot be drunk alone in public without like 15 different people trying to prey on her?
Yeah. Men are fucking evil.
How scary
disgusting.
Is that?
If you're a man and you're listening to this, it probably, I can't say for sure, but it almost certainly doesn't apply to you if you've made it this far in our podcast.
True.
So please don't take that and start emailing me, not all men, because I really don't give a fuck. Not all white women either. And yet here we are. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, exactly. But yeah, so finally, they're like, okay, we know she made it home, right?
Right.
Because the guard also said all that whole dumb story. So finally the detectives, after some delay, are able to see all of the apartment complex surveillance footage is kind of handed over to them. And they see Sasha walking in by herself. There is initially a guy that kind of follows her shortly thereafter, but he's not a suspect. He's to figure out where he went. He does pause, as he should, and go, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yep."
Right.
Cameras follow her as she walks up a stairwell. And then there's a weird gap of time for about 20 minutes where no cameras catch her.
Okay.
Then the cameras catch her running up another stairwell. And even though she's drunk, you can tell there's a little pep in her step, right? There's a little urgency.
Right.
And a moment later, whom do we see following behind her? It's Stephen Duxbury, the security guard.
Shocker there. So she's drunk, but she has her wits about her enough to know that she's in danger.
She's not into it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then they clearly have some kind of conversation because they're both seen walking down to the parking garage.
Okay.
And according to him, this was because Sasha thought that the keys were in her car. So that he's escorting her down to check. So this is still playing out potentially, like he says. And it's really creepy to see them walking together. And I posted that screenshot for the Instagram. He kind of looks up at the camera because he knows the cameras are there.
Yeah. He knows where they are. He knows where they're not.
Exactly. Yeah. So investigators run through a couple of other men as suspects, kind of guys he was texting with, an ex, but they all have alibis, so I won't belabor it. But they all kind of check everyone else off. And they aren't on the footage, right? They didn't fucking get there.
Yeah. You'd see them somewhere.
So on their millionth pass through this footage, kind of going over it with a fine-tooth comb, detectives notice that Stephen Duxbury is, wouldn't you know it, shown on the cameras around 6:30 a.m., which is really weird because he said he left work at 6.
Okay.
And he's seen carrying garbage bags that match bags that were left strewn about in Sasha's apartment.
So he's fucking idiot. Like, put him back. Like, it's, I'm sorry. But, like, this guy is such a fucking, like, okay, first of all, he's a piece of shit, but also, like, the irony of him being such a bachelor that he can't, like, put something back when he's done using it, or, like, put the toilet seat down when he's done using it. It's just, like, it would almost be funny if it wasn't so horrible, but it's, like, kind of a joke in a way. Anyway, sorry.
So he goes into the garage, parking garage, where the trash is to throw something out, and people note that it is not part of his job to take out trash. He would never have a reason to really do that.
Yeah, he's a security guard. That's not a thing.
Yes. So Stephen Duxbury then takes a polygraph, which he fails miserably.
Yeah, I wonder why.
They then run him through further tests, and they come up with like 8 different slam dunks against him. First of all,
he failed the DNA test.
He failed the fingerprints. Those are his fucking fingerprints. First of all, on the toilet seat. Yep. And by the way, he said he never entered the apartment.
Oh, well, he should have said he did, because that would have been a little better for him.
Exactly.
I'm glad he didn't, though.
Yeah. Then the DNA matches. The DNA found on her, bing, bang, bong. We're pretty much here. Yeah. Then they find that around 5 a.m., on his phone, he searched for how to hack or break through the type of digital lock that was on the apartments. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's found that right after that search on his phone, he's gone for about 90 minutes. He's not on any video footage, and he is not like logging any data. Like, he's not working.
Oh my God.
So Stephen Duxbury is arrested and charged with first-degree murder and attempted sexual assault. In 2017, he's found guilty, and the prosecution basically presents that this piece of shit saw a drunk girl alone and decided to fucking, literally wait till she was home safe in bed, and then broke the lock to break in and sexually assault her in her bed.
Wow. So he did figure out how to break the code on her.
Clearly, yeah, he got it.
Which means if you can Google that, then those are not safe. And also, how the fuck did this guy get hired? And why are so many security guards this guy? Yeah. Like, what is up with
we talked about this in Costa Rica. Remember that, like, apartment complex that was gated and safe, and that girl, Carla Stefaniak, was staying there, and the security guard at that apartment complex killed her.
It's always the fucking security guard. It was the security guard at the church with that. Remember that young couple that got in the argument, and she went to, like, pray on it, and she got murdered in the church?
Yep.
And it was the fucking security guard. And it took forever to figure it out. Yes, in Stanford.
Yep.
Stanford.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. So it's his fucking job to protect the residents. Obviously, this is like disgusting. And he literally, like it's so fucking angering because she was home. Like she made it. You can't
and everybody like kicked in to help. Like the random girls on the street, the guy who came into the building checked on her. Like
she won the victory of a solo drunk girl. She made it home. She was in the bed. She did it. She made it home safe. Like success.
It's so fucking terrifying. People attacking you in your own home, to me, it's always scary. But the idea that people do it in your own home, because then you literally just have nowhere that you are
nowhere
safe.
to be safe.
Nowhere.
Yeah. Terrifying.
It's always like, get home and lock your doors. But like, if that doesn't matter, then I don't know what to do.
So fucked up. So Sasha's parents filed lawsuits against the apartment complex.
Yep.
The security guard company that hired him.
Yep.
And the lock company for being so breakable.
Good. I'm sorry, but like good. I don't necessarily agree with like litigious shit, but like if these are your job, this is like what you exist for, like the locks and the security.
Yep.
And then the company doing that, like the housing, the apartment building hiring these people, like they didn't.
Why have the locks? Why have the locks if they're breakable?
Just use a deadbolt, man. That's not something you can crack with a code on Google. Like
fucked up. Yeah. Like don't trust a digital lock either, I guess. Jesus Christ. Like that. Yeah, and for the apartment lawsuit, I guess they cited the lack of cameras in the hallways, like where the doors to the apartments are, and he knew that those cameras weren't there. So that's why he could like stand there and pick the lock forever, right?
Right. And then also like the fact that they used this security company, like everybody's liable here. Everybody fucked up.
It also came out that although Duxbury had to pass background checks and etc. when he was first hired, he had been the subject of numerous complaints from female residents since then, and he was included one who said he followed her back to her apartment and was acting really creepy. Yeah. So there were, I hope the family got some money from these fucking lawsuits. I didn't catch it if they did or didn't, but I hope they did because they have some fucking merit,
If there is a single fucking complaint like that, that's it. I'm sorry, but that's like a zero tolerance situation.
Absolutely.
For obvious fucking reasons.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much the case. I just wanted to conclude with a small rant, which we already kind of did, but like, it's really fucked up to me that women cannot be drunk and safe. Like, you cannot, obviously, in this case, you can't victim blame for so many reasons, but you should never victim blame drunk girls because men should, here's the thing. I wanted to conclude by saying, men, if you see, or people in general, if you see a drunk woman alone, vulnerable, stumbling, here's what you should do. Here's your options. A, leave her alone. B, make sure she gets home safe. Call her an Uber, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or C, get her a glass of water, get her a sandwich, take care of her.
Either
give her
do
something.
no harm or be helpful. Those are your options.
Do nothing or help. Yes.
Yep. And if you see a drunk person who is in need of help and you do nothing, then you've been harmful. So bear that in mind as well.
No, lend a fucking helping hand. It's a good thing to do. And just like those girls who did exactly what they're supposed to do, they got her home safe.
Yep.
And it's so scary to think that if they didn't, the fucking dudes in the car could have been the ones that killed her.
Yeah, it's like she was fucking marked that night. That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
Crazy.
And it's like I said, it's so fucked up though that she literally did make it home.
Yeah.
She survived the scary drunk walk. She survived everything to a high security apartment complex with cameras and door codes that I'm sure she picked because of that safety factor.
100%. 100%.
And she was still not fucking safe there. It's fucked up.
It's really fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, would you like me to compound upon that with some more? Because you can't be drunk anywhere, but you also just can't be anywhere. I'm going to talk about that because I am doing the case of Mollie Tibbetts.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This is a rough fucking case. So this takes place in July 2018 in Brooklyn, Iowa. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure most of us remember this as it happened live, very unfortunately. Yes. So Mollie Tibbetts was a 20-year-old student at Iowa State University. She was studying psychology. She was born in San Francisco, but moved with her mother to Brooklyn, Iowa, after her parents divorced and grew up there. She was still really close with her dad. Like her dad and mom made sure that she had like a supportive family on all sides and that, she still had a very strong father figure. So she grew up a really stable, really good life, despite the early on divorce of her parents.
Yeah.
She had a boyfriend named Dalton Jack, which can I just say is like such a great name, Dalton
That is a good
Jack.
name. I was going to
Yeah.
say that, Dalton. I kind of like that.
Dalton. Yeah, Dalton Jack. I mean,
Mm.
it's like if your last name is a first name, you got to have a cool first name.
Yeah.
So Mr. Dalton Jack was her boyfriend. They met in high school. He was a senior and she was, I believe, a freshman. But
Wow.
hopefully he was a football player and she was a cheerleader. I don't know. I don't know, but it's like perfect.
Yeah.
So he lived at the time the story takes place also in Brooklyn, Iowa. He had not gone off to college. He was hanging back and working. And Brooklyn, Iowa is about 50 miles from Iowa City, where the U of I is located, the University of Iowa. So Mollie's mother, Laura, also lived in Brooklyn. And like I said, this is where Mollie grew up. But at the time the story takes place, she's staying mostly at her boyfriend's house. I've heard incorrect reporting that she was living with her boyfriend. This, in fact, is not true. She was kind of staying. It was one of those things. They'd been dating for 3 years. She's 20 years old. She was basically living there, but technically she was living with her mom. So she would kind of go back and forth.
Back and forth, yeah.
She wouldn't stay there every night. She had stuff at both places. So that actually makes things confusing later on. Because it's difficult to know, like, well, where's this red sweater? Did she leave wearing it? Like, what's going on? It's like, well, some stuff's at his house, some stuff's at her mom's house. So it just became kind of a mess. So the boyfriend's house was on the edge of town and it was surrounded by cornfields. And in fact, most of this town and most of this area was surrounded by densely packed cornfields.
Very Iowan.
Very Iowan.
Yeah.
Very, very much. So like I said, she's mostly staying with her boyfriend at this time. It's the summer, so she's not in school. She was also working, I think, in like a daycare setting. So she'd been back for about a month. This is all important to the story because Mollie was a super fit person. She loved to go jogging. She was like a cross-country runner for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, she was really active in general, but running was really her thing. There's tons of photos on her Instagram, which is also still public and viewable. And extraordinarily fucking depressing, I might add, because she's just a ray of sunshine.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's tons of photos of her in workout clothing, swimsuits, just like having like a really active lifestyle, right? So while she's back home for the summer, she gets back into her jogging routine. She has a few different routes. And like a smart person, she varies them a little bit day by day. She doesn't run exactly the same way every day. Which, if you jog and you don't do this and you are attacked, it is 1,000,000% not your fault. But it is a very good idea to not run the same path every day because people will prey on you.
Yeah.
But as this story will show, that doesn't even always work because these motherfuckers are going to do what they're going to do. So we have kind of our background. She always wore a Fitbit. She always had her phone on her. She would attach her phone to her arm using one of those armbands when she went running.
Yeah.
So she had the pedometer on the Fitbit, the pedometer on the phone. It was tracking where she was. She liked to run a lot, staying in two places, this setting the background, right?
Yeah.
So on the evening of July 18th, 2018, Mollie, as per usual, goes out for a jog. She's leaving from her boyfriend's house. She was actually there specifically for the last few days, babysitting, dog sitting her boyfriend's brother's dogs because her boyfriend lived with his brother and his brother's fiance, and his brother's fiance is the homeowner. So it's kind of the four of them all staying there.
Gotcha.
She was there the least, right? So, but they were like, we're going out of town. Can you watch the dogs? Now, the reason Mollie was staying there will come up later because it's like, well, why doesn't the boyfriend just watch the dogs, right?
Yeah.
But we'll get there. So on her way out, she texts her mom. She's like, what's for dinner? And her mom texts back what they're going to have. And she's like, cool, So she leaves the house around 7 or 7:30, wearing dark running shorts, a sports bra, and running shoes, we think. To this day, it's still not 100%. So the next morning, actually, they found what she was wearing when she was found, but like it was never confirmed. So, and all the
ominous.
Yeah, no, I don't know, but all the reports were like, it could have been red, it could have been pink, it could have been a shirt, it could have been a bra, like we don't know.
Okay, gotcha.
So the next morning, her brother, who she's sharing a car with while she's home, texts her to see if she needs a ride to work, and she doesn't reply. So he's kind of like, well, whatever, she probably got a ride. or walked or who knows. He's not worried about it because it's not that big of a deal. She then doesn't arrive at work. Nobody noticed she was gone the night before because, like I said, she was going back and forth from her mom's to her boyfriend's. And when her mom said what was for dinner, she just replied okay via text. So her mom thought, well, maybe she decided to skip it, you know. And her boyfriend was not in town. So she was staying at his house because he wasn't there.
Okay. But he's also out of the picture as far as suspects.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
So her boyfriend texts her good morning. He doesn't hear back. He texts her again around lunch. Still got no reply, but he's like, she might be busy. Not a big deal. But then her coworker calls him looking for her because she didn't arrive at work. And this is when he gets scared. He starts calling her frantically. It goes straight to voicemail over and over. Finally, he calls Mollie's mom, and she calls the police to report Mollie missing because she's like, fuck this shit. Like, she's not at work, didn't answer the call from her brother or the text from her brother, the boyfriend, nobody, right? So police pretty much immediately begin a search, and they start canvassing the area for witnesses who may have seen Mollie. They think she'd gone out for a run, but, they're not sure. And other than that, they don't really have anything because, again, she was staying at this house by herself. She wasn't staying with her mom. She was mostly by herself, So they also went through the really shitty but necessary process of ruling out her family, including her dad, her brother, and her boyfriend, Dalton. Like I said, Dalton was 120 miles away in Dubuque, Iowa for work, and apparently had ample proof for his alibi. I'm unsure how her family was cleared, but they were. And even though her boyfriend had ample proof for his alibi, he remained something of a suspect throughout most of the process.
Okay. Like thinking he ordered it or something? Or
they just weren't sure. Like one of the 5 places that they were most carefully looking for her was around his house. So that to me means that they had never fully given up on that theory.
Sure.
So on July 24th, about 6 days after she went missing, the FBI got involved. And a few days before that, a sheriff held a press conference asking for any leads and saying that they had a cash reward that I think at that point was already at like $177,000, but it was for her safe return, right?
Yeah.
On July 27th, police then said they thought she might have been wearing something different than they had originally said. And they also weren't exactly sure when or where she was abducted. So they weren't sure if she actually went jogging. They weren't sure if she got abducted on the the next morning on her way out, going to work.
So this is a big, wide time frame.
It's a huge time frame. They haven't found her. They haven't found her phone.
And she was alone, so they don't have an agenda book of exactly what she was doing at what time.
Exactly. There's nothing for sure about any of this. So there's also a Snapchat that she sent Dalton. He didn't open it until about 10 p.m. And so I think he thought that she had sent it around that time, but it was actually determined later that it was sent way earlier than that.
Okay.
Police searched her computer to see if she'd been online, the night of the 18th. She had not. And again, they were thinking maybe she'd been taken the next morning. Her dad came out and said he thought that she had probably been taken by somebody she knew because he didn't really understand how she could have been taken otherwise,
Right. Yeah.
So really, they're seemingly just kind of scrambling for anything. And there's tons of different, quote, evidence and clues that come up, and more people are being brought in as suspects. It's kind of just a mess. And it took a full 5 weeks before anything really big happened in the case, which I'll talk about. Yeah. So for 5 weeks, it was till late August. Nothing happened. I mean, a lot happened, but nothing solid. Yeah. But one of the kind of solid suspects in the case was a man named Wayne Cheney, a local pig farmer, who it turned out may have been the last person to see her alive while she was out jogging. Her phone tracked to right near his farm. Before it
very suspicious.
Turned off. Yes. And he even said, I think, that he saw her. Now, this man has had at the time 9 different stalking charges against him over the years for various types of stalking, everything from in person to weird online stalking shit. So we're thinking that's the last place her phone pinged. He said he saw her. He's being super cagey with the cops. He's giving a ton of weird interviews. So cops are really zeroing in on him. They're also still looking into Dalton, but I think that has more to do with they just don't know what's happening. They don't have any good leads. They're also looking at a couple other people, like a 17-year-old kid, but all of it's just kind of grasping at straws. This Wayne Chaney guy seems the most viable suspect. But he passed a polygraph and then ended up not being involved in the case. And the way we know that is because finally, in late August, a man named Logan Collins came forward with footage from his family's surveillance cameras that showed what he thought might be both Mollie jogging by his home on the night she may have gone missing, as well as a black car following her. So Logan here lived with his family on Des Moines Street, which was in fact a street Mollie would regularly run down, and her phone was tracked to being in that area.
Okay.
So this is all very interesting to this case. Like, there's so much to talk about in terms of like the tracking and the cameras, but I'm not doing like a 3-part episode here. I don't want to go too long. So suffice it to say that there's a ton of evidence in these, including a teeny tiny little speck of a person, like on the upper left-hand corner of one of the cameras that they zoomed in on, and it was determined to be Mollie. You can see her ponytail swinging as she's running. Yeah. And she's actually cutting through houses.
Okay.
Not taking a main street. This was about 7:45 on the night of the 18th. And about 5 minutes later, not even, no, this first sighting was 30 seconds later. A black Chevy Malibu with aftermarket chrome wheels, door handles, and other like shiny shit on it came driving through right behind her.
Okay.
Now, this Malibu is seen driving back and forth around this neighborhood on this camera no less than 6 times.
Ugh, so scary.
Yes. And when matched with Mollie's phone data, and remember, they didn't have her phone. They never found her phone, but they had the data because they went to the carrier and got it. The car and Mollie remained in that area for the same amount of time, according to the cameras. You can match that up.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, Mollie was kidnapped about a mile from where these videos were taken. And this was sort of proven, again, using her phone data, because she had that pedometer. And so it showed her moving at like a jogging speed, and then suddenly very quickly, as though in a car, right about 8 p.m. So this means she was taken around that time, which is about 10 to 15 minutes after the Malibu was seen in the camera. So that all lines up. So finally, after ruling out the 4 other suspects that I sort of touched on, including the farmer, including her boyfriend, they zeroed in on a man who owned the Chevy Malibu that exactly matched the one seen in the videos. So annoyingly, you couldn't make out a license plate or the person driving the Malibu in the video, but the aftermarket chrome add-ons and the fact that Brooklyn, I think, had like 1,400 people in it at the time, like makes it pretty easy to track that down, right? Like, we're not talking about trying to find that in Los Angeles, which you could literally never do. Like, 1,400 people, how many of them are going to have a black Chevy Malibu,
No. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
There's only so many.
Right. So the person that owned that car was 24-year-old Christian Bahina Rivera, a man who worked as a farmhand on a nearby farm. And I'm just going to say it because it becomes a big point of contention in the case.
Yep.
He was in the country without documentation, which I don't fucking care about, but it does come up later on. And to be clear, Mollie's family was not fucking happy that her case and her name were being tied to an anti-immigrant sentiment. They didn't want to have anything to do with that. And they were upset about it.
It shows that they're good people.
Yes. So he'd been in America since he was 17. And when police did finally identify him, something like 15 cops went to his work to arrest him, or not even arrest him, but like just bring him in for questioning. But they did it in this big like SWAT kind of thing, like, which I think was definitely on purpose.
Yeah.
Now, a little bit about Christian. He was using a fake ID to get work. And when pressed about it, the farm was like, oh, well, we followed all the protocol. Like, we aren't allowed to like question his identity. Let me just tell you, as somebody who's worked with undocumented people all of my life in various restaurants and other situations, businesses know they don't care. He provided them with an identification that said his name was John Budd. Now, this man was born and raised in Mexico. Do you think that there is a man who was born and raised in Mexico whose name is John Budd?
No. Nope.
Double D. No.
Nope.
No. And
they don't care.
They don't give a shit. And as soon as there's any sort of like pressure on them, or why was this guy hired? They deny all culpability. They say, oh, we had proof, we can't ask, yada yada, and they try to
just throw up their hands and back away. Yeah.
And I've heard other podcasts trying to defend this company. No, they are intentionally exploiting undocumented workers so that they can maximize their profits. So do not defend them. They're horrible.
And also, when people get mad about immigration, it feels like no one gets mad at the companies hiring them. It's only at the immigrants themselves.
Individual who's being exploited already, and who is here because those companies need them. They're not here by accident.
Yeah, because they know that they'll get hired.
Yeah, well, they don't need them. They want them so they can maximize their profits.
Right. They need them, but they don't need to exploit them.
Right. Exactly. So he was brought in. He was questioned for a while without a translator, and he doesn't speak English very well, and was improperly read his Miranda rights. From there, after he was kind of told, if you help us out, what his defense lawyers later said was if you admit it, you won't get in trouble, essentially. So he said he did follow Mollie on her jog, including after he was seen on her video. He followed her about another mile, and she noticed and confronted him and threatened to call the police. He then said he, quote, blocked everything out, which fucking right.
No.
And the next thing he knew, because it wasn't him that did it, she was in his trunk and he was sitting in his car.
Okay. Yeah, just convenient. Gloss over the part where you did the stuff. Just gloss that over. Yeah.
So everything I said about him being undocumented and workers being exploited is completely true. However, on another note, this guy is a piece of shit murderer.
Yes.
So that's kind of where we're at with that. So he drove her out to a farm and dumped her body in a cornfield. He then, after telling police this, led them to her body, which I really want to stress. He took them to her body.
Okay.
Now, this was in the morning after he'd been held overnight, interviewed relentlessly, and not properly read his Miranda rights, which sucks. And that is absolutely not okay. But that does not change the fact that he knew where her body was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a slam dunk.
Police cannot beat that information into existing in your head. They cannot lie to you and suddenly you know where a body is if you had nothing to do with it.
Can't get around that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'm not okay with the police violating his rights. They are garbage. However,
yes,
he led them to the body. So this whole case,
it's complicated.
It's complicated, and there's separate issues happening that people want to conflate, and it bothers me. So anyway, he led them to the body. She was not raped, but she was stabbed to death. She had multiple stab wounds. They don't know what it was multiple sharp instrument wounds or what killed her. They don't know. They think it was a knife. They don't know. After Christian took police to her body, he was again reread his Miranda rights, this time correctly, but continued to speak to police. He also allowed them to search his car, which he did before the second reading of the Miranda rights, and this showed blood stains in the trunk. So he was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, and his lawyers immediately went to work, and they really fucking did. So first, they talk about the fact that he wasn't properly Mirandized. He was interviewed without an interpreter. He was under duress and sleep deprivation. He was being held basically and nearly tortured into confessing.
Yeah, of course they're going to bring all that up. That's their job.
That's their job. And also, none of that should have been what happened. Right. None of that should have been what happened. They were attempting to get the confession and all evidence collected before he was Mirandized thrown out.
It only fucks up their case to behave like that.
Right. Exactly. It's come on, guys. And honestly, all they technically did wrong was not properly Mirandize him.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that they technically did not do correctly. And from what I can tell, even after they did, he didn't immediately ask for a lawyer, but it still remains that they did this wrong. And so the defense lawyers tried to get all of this thrown out. The judge did disallow anything he said before he was properly Mirandized to be used in the trial, but they did allow the search of the car and obviously the finding of the body because they're he did consent to the search and he did lead them there, so that's kind of, but his lawyers fought and fought and fought. And it took about 3 years for him to go to trial.
Okay.
But he finally made it after many attempts by his lawyers to cast doubt to get him off on technicalities. He went to trial. They pulled up all the other names, the boyfriend, the farmer. Her boyfriend was supposed to testify at her trial, but after her death, I think he had a really hard time. So he signed up for the army and went to fucking to the Middle East.
Wow.
He was like, fuck this, I'm out of here.
He's bailed.
Yeah. I feel bad for him.
That's tough.
So there's a lot more, but again, I'm already running long. So suffice it to say that this guy was then found guilty.
Yeah.
But then there's not that much more. It's mostly just like him wilding out. He started claiming, and he started this on the stand because he took the stand. He started to claim that he was framed, that he was held hostage by 2 other men who killed Mollie and forced her to dump her body and take the fall.
How many times have dudes tried this type of same
right?
shit? It's so tired.
Right?
Like,
it's so pathetic.
It's like also like Jodi Arias, how she's like, these guys came in, they forced me to do the thing. No, they didn't.
It's like, guys, how often that gets claimed to be the case versus how often that's actually happened. I can only think of that one case, which I absolutely fucking hate. The torture of that little boy whose friend like participated, quote unquote, so that he could not die.
The only time where that almost kind of happened. Yeah.
And it really still didn't. So the judge was like, this is a figment of your imagination, like, fuck off. But then his lawyers attempted to get him off again before he was sentenced, saying that another inmate came forward saying that yet another inmate had admitted to them that he in fact killed Mollie, along with another man who first had her held hostage as a sex slave in a trap house, but killed her because she was such a big news story. They didn't think it was worth the risk of trafficking her.
How gross. Also, you just said that there was no evidence she was raped. So
yeah, exactly. So then they killed her and again framed Christian, who just happened to be there. So this just makes so much sense, right?
Oh my God, he's really trying.
Yeah, and the sad thing is that his lawyers are actually presenting this, and they're doing not like ashamed.
Yeah.
So again, the judge threw this bullshit out, and he was sentenced to life without parole. And what's extra fucked up in this case is that Christian has a daughter, a young daughter.
Yeah,
so that's really fucked up.
That's really sad.
At the sentencing, Mollie's mother, Laura, addressed this shitbag. And I won't read the entirety of her amazing, like incredibly powerful statement, but I do recommend people read it if you want to know. But what she talks about is how the day she found out her daughter died, her daughter's body was found. The day she found that out, she lays out her entire day. How she was trying to beat the news stations and beat the other family members who were going to call in and offer condolences to go tell all of these people either in person, over the phone what had happened to Mollie. So she had to call Mollie's dad before the news did.
Horrible.
She had to tell Mollie's brother. She had to tell Dalton. She had to get on the phone. You know what I mean? Like she had to go tell her own mother, Mollie's grandmother.
Insane shit.
Yeah. So just talking about how this guy's actions ruined and changed,
devastated everyone,
devastated so many lives. She also starts to talk about the family that housed and cared for Christian, and this family had to leave this town because they were receiving death threats.
That's so sad. They did nothing wrong.
No, they didn't. So when everybody found out what this family did by, I don't know, letting the guy live there, the town went on the attack. And again, this family, which included a son who was a senior in high school, they had to flee the town.
That's so sad.
Mollie's mother and stepfather took this family's son in so that he could finish high school in that town and finish out his time there.
That just shows you like that they're great people, and it shows you that Mollie herself would have hated all of that like sentiment. Yeah.
100%. And she tells him this. And then she ends by talking about his daughter. And she's like, what would you do if somebody had to tell, your wife that your daughter was gone? And she says, the thing that she says is like, your daughter may grow up one day to have children. And what is she going to tell them about their grandfather? Like, how is she going to do that? And then she's like, I don't know which situation is worse. Meaning basically like the day that she had, the thing she had to do, or what his daughter's going to have to do with her own family.
That's so empathetic and like profound.
It was, guys, go find it and read it. Honestly, it's incredible. This family is incredible. They're obviously, they're Christians, but I think they're the kind that are like,
good
what
kind.
I call real Christians. Yeah. They don't have hate in their heart. They're actually loving and accepting and like really good people. So everybody read her statement. It's a really fucked up, terrible, sad case. Really fucking sad. But I'm really, really glad that Logan Collins came forward with that, with those camera, that video footage and helped solve this case, because I truly don't think This guy was not on their radar until he came forward with that footage. So
that was the crack in the case.
Yeah. So this could also be like a case solved by everyday people, you know?
Yeah.
Like
in a way.
Yeah. So,
and also I'll add a few things because I know this case too.
I was just trying to be succinct.
No, it's okay. Like obviously you didn't get into it too much, which is fine. But like the politicization of this by like Trump and like by people like him in politicians, Republicans, to make it this a thing about immigration is so repulsive.
It was disgusting.
There's a couple cases like this where undocumented Latinos, murdered someone or did some horrible crime. And of course they just seize on that, right? They just love it.
Oh, immediately.
It's just so repulsive because like statistically undocumented immigrants actually commit very few crimes.
Right.
So statistically they're actually law abiding as fuck. And guess why? Because they don't want to fucking get deported,
Yeah.
So they don't they don't speed, they don't run a red light. Like statistically they are very law abiding. And it's so repulsive to take the actions of one fuckhead, and one asshole and make it about a group of people who are so fucking hardworking and so long suffering and so good, fundamentally good people, like who are washing your fucking dishes and mowing your lawns and doing all kinds of shit. And to villainize them in general is disgusting. And to use Mollie's horrific murder to do so is extra gross. And clearly she would have hated it too.
Yeah, because her family did. And her family was basically like, how fucking dare any of you do this?
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck do you think you are? And
it's
honestly,
so fucking gross.
Yeah. I mean,
you take any population and you're going to have assholes within that population. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Don't even get me started. Like, we could really tear some shit down. And it doesn't, and that's the thing. Everybody, exactly. There's bad people in every fucking group, and you can't judge a whole group based on that. And also, like, it's interesting to me that, sorry, I'm burping because I just drink a lot of water. It's interesting to me that nobody, these companies, they don't have any problem hiring these people, but then and exploiting them. But then the second something goes wrong, they're just like distancing themselves. And again, everybody's blaming the individual victim instead of the people who are actually perpetrating
exploiting them.
Exploitations. Yeah.
No, it's really fucked up. And also on a more heartwarming note, I noticed as I was looking through Instagram and stuff that a lot of people did Miles for Mollie, like memorial run, and they did like kind of runs in her honor, kind of like they did for Ahmaud Arbery. Running dedicated to her to raise awareness to safety issues that women face when they're jogging, which is fucking scary. I do like to jog. I usually do it on my treadmill now, but like if I ever jogged out in the world again, I'm like, fuck, do I carry a knife? Like, that shit's scary,
Mace at least. I carried mace for a long time and it was great. Mostly because I have a big mouth, so I don't always have like dudes try to like, they'd get pissed because like some woman was back talking, which they really weren't like okay with. So I just whipped the mace out and they'd go back to wherever they were coming from.
But it's scary to be a lady alone anywhere. Like really that's the theme of this episode. In your house, on the street, anywhere.
It's fucked up. You can't do anything. You can't be drunk. You can't be sober. You can't be fit.
Nope.
You can't be in your house. You can't be anywhere.
Fucking terrifying.
On that note, all
right.
I'm gonna pick for next week. For my birthday, I wanted to do something for other people because I'm just, I'm like that. I'm philanthropic. No, just kidding. But I wanted to do listener requests because we've had some listeners who have very patiently been waiting for us to cover some cases that they've been asking about. So we're going to cover a few of those. We just got a really good request for a list from somebody who gave us a good list previously. So we'll cover that full list at some point. But for right now, we're going to do just a few individual cases that are listener requests. So there's not going to be an obvious unifying factor for next week, but there will be some pretty cool cases because I think if our listeners are requesting them, it's because there's something there. So
exactly. They have I want to say good taste. They have interesting taste in the murders.
Yes, they they know what they're talking about, I think is what we can say. So so that's what we'll do, and it'll be great. And thanks everybody for listening. Please continue to spread the word. And again, to our patrons, we love you dearly. Thank you for sticking with us. We have a new Patreon coming out next week.
Yes, it's all done.
I promise it's actually happening.
It's really gnarly. So if you're into that kind of thing.
I also need to order some more stickers and I'll send some to everybody as a thank you for hanging tough with us. We love you guys. So thanks again, everybody, for listening, spreading the word, liking, rating, reviewing, all that good stuff. And until next week,
stay
off our list. Yeah. Bye.